The UN Security Council may have voted for a 30-day ceasefire, but the bombing here in eastern Ghouta hasn't stopped. The number of deaths in little over a week, now more than 500. Russian President Vladimir Putin has now announced a 5-hour daily pause in fighting between 9 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. The UN chief Antonio Guterres is calling for all sides to implement the 30-day ceasefire.
Eastern Ghouta cannot wait. It's high time to stop this hell on earth. And I remind all parties of their absolute obligation under international humanitarian and human rights law to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure at all times. And similarly, efforts to combat terrorism do not supersede these obligations.
Iran's foreign minister has backed calls for a halt to the fighting.
Iran, along with Russia and Turkey, have tried and succeeded for bringing down the level of hostilities in Syria over the past year. We continue to believe that Syria requires a political solution and there is no military solution in Syria.
In Brussels, EU ministers agreed to impose sanctions on Syrian industry and senior figures in the regime, but there was little they could offer on the calls for the fighting to stop.
We need to see the ceasefire put in place, because as you know, the UN Security Council resolution adopted is, and we define it as a positive, encouraging step, very much needed, but has a weak point that has no time framework.
Despite Russia's temporary ceasefire plans and the UN's resolution on Syria, many people in eastern Ghouta are sceptical the bombings will end, allowing the evacuation of the sick, wounded and malnourished civilian population. Ben Tornquist, TRT World.